We're super glad to be here with the City Harmonic from Hamilton, Ontario.
I'm Elias Dummer, frontman in the City Harmonic. I sing and play piano. I've been playing since I was a kid. My parents say that basically one of their earliest memories of me, they have a photograph of this, is me at the piano with a set of headphones on, bobbing along to Thriller by Michael Jackson. So I was raised on, my dad's a huge classic rock guy, so I was raised on Zeppelin and, Chicago and all these crazy 70s prog rock bands that, I don't know, I grew up loving it. We've actually been playing together for years. Aaron and I played together as sort of like worship team, worship band kind of thing for a bunch of years. We've been playing about 8 years. So he originally started playing keyboards for me, and I was playing guitar, and then we switched, and it's been that way ever since. Eric and I went to high school together in Hamilton, and Josh joined, they were college roommates, Eric and Josh, and so we sort of were in another band before, and in a sense felt like we weren't really doing something that was right for us. It just didn't feel like we were making music that was honest, honest in the sense of spiritually and lyrically, but just as far as our actual musical tastes, it didn't feel like us. And so we decided to stop what we were doing and just make a band and write music we love, and that's what we've been doing ever since. I want people to love Jesus from bottom to top, not just on Sundays, not just when they sing a song. And so many of our worship songs come from Scripture, which is great, but they also come from certain passages of Scripture that don't deal with some of the reality of life. And so for me, especially with this new album, we really tried to capture sort of this, I call it hopeful nostalgia. C.S. Lewis has this quote, if I find in myself a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, it stands to reason that I was made for another world. And I think that all of us humans, Christian or not, have that tension in us that the world ought to be something other than what it is. And yet, as Christians, we act as though it's already finished. But the reality is we live in between. The Christian reality is tension. We live between a world that is broken and a world that is whole and redeemed. And so I think what we've tried to do anyway with our music and our art is capture that emotional space, that tension of tension and release. It's like, we're not there yet, The stage is set, but we're not all the way home.
We've been to the mountaintop, we've seen the glory of our God.
Right now, I'm loving Matthew 17, the story of the Transfiguration. We wrote a song about it called Mountaintop that's on the new record, partly because of what it teaches us. You've got this experience, which is like, it's so good for the way Christian culture is right now. You've got this experience, this fantastic God moving, doing something experience. And everyone on the mountaintop, except for Jesus, of course, and his two heavenly pals, want to box it in. They want to say, let's control this, let's build tents, a place for you to live. Contextually, of course, it made sense in the Jewish religion, but a place for you to live and also a way that we can contain you, because you're a bit scary when you're revealed as who you are. And Jesus says, no, it's okay. Don't worry, it's safe. And we don't need to build a tent. And then immediately leads the two disciples down the mountain where they come and confront a demon-possessed boy. So we sometimes act as though the mountaintop is where God is and the valley isn't. And yet the reality of that story is that Jesus came with them. Later on, Peter's talking about in a letter, and he uses the phrase, as long as I'm in the tent of my body, while describing this story. So he's much older in life, and he's saying, in reality, that within the Jewish religion, they would put God in this tent. This is where they were protected from the awesome power of God, and they were also able to relate to that. And then the Christian reality is that we are the tent of our God. It's good for you. I think the reality is any band will tell you it's not easy. You've got 4 guys who love each other, well, 6 guys, by the time you add in your other people as well. And you all love each other, you're friends, but you become a little bit more like brothers in both ways. You have the brothers where at the end of the day it's going to be okay, but then you also have the brothers where you're like, why did you do that just now? And in a sense, I think of it as almost a microcosm of the church, because we coexist in this tight community, and we need to learn to do it well. And so that's been our thing this year, is really just trying to do that well and still love each other and still laugh at jokes at the end of the day, Most recently, the biggest challenge has been probably in this ministry has been traveling. I have 3 kids and my wife at home, and going on 4 actually, and that's been really difficult. As much as I love what we're doing and I love what God's got us doing, we've been really challenged to try to find a way to make that feel good and make that balance. My biggest concern when we're on stage is the guy at the back row whose arms are crossed. It has been for a long time now. I think that there's sort of a few ways to lead worship, if you will. One of them is to say, okay, I'm going to pretend there isn't a stage. I'm going to pretend that we're not, I'm going to close my eyes and lock off and have my own moment with Jesus or something like that. But at the end of the day, I struggle with that being servanthood. I struggle with that. I think it would be much better to make eye contact in my mind with the guy at the back of the room who wants to feel as though the stage disappears, not because we're ignoring it, but because we recognize that it's there.
How you guys doing?
And I'm saying, hey, let's experience this together. Let's come together.
Give me some of that.
And so in my mind, I just think I'm going to go out there and I'm going to love on the people in front of me. And just as Jesus said, the greatest commandment is loving my neighbor as myself is like loving God with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength. I'm going to try to do the same. I'm going to try to worship by loving the people in front of me, rather than simply ignoring the people in front of me and loving Jesus. We're heading out in a couple of weeks with Aaron Gillespie doing the Hello Somebody tour. Hello Somebody's an organization that basically feeds kids with watches and shirts. You buy a shirt, you buy a watch, they feed kids. It's pretty great. Going right from that to a Newsboys tour across the U.S. in the spring, and then festivals all summer. It's going to be a really, really busy year in 2012, I think, so it's exciting. October 18th, our new record comes out. It's called I Have a Dream. It feels like home. Really, we tried to capture it. The song I Have a Dream, actually, the title track, we wrote before many of the songs that came out on our EP. So we always kind of thought it would be the linchpin on which the album would hang. It's essentially a combination of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech and Revelation 21. So it's sort of reappropriating, a lot of the contents of the speech, giving it maybe a broader, more inclusive Christianism, And so in doing that, we basically are talking about the symphony of peace that he talks about, the sense that right now the world is in such a way that we don't feel at home. We feel like aliens, and yet so much of Christian energy is spent waiting for heaven, when so much of the New Testament is about this place feeling more like home. At the end of days, Revelation 21, you've got the New Jerusalem coming down, and God and creation being whole and redeemed. And to me, that's an important message. We're waiting to go somewhere else, when in reality, Jesus is calling us to make this place feel more like home now, to be out there being missional, to be loving our communities and loving our neighbors, and hopefully making it look a little bit more like heaven. And so that's really what that song is about. And I mean, it ends with this sort of, it feels like home, sweet home, and there's no place like home, like the Wizard of Oz, So I don't know, it's exciting for me. It's just come out in the States, and there's a lot of songs on there that we really, really are excited about and passionate about, and it's just been a great, we really tried to make an album, which I don't know if I don't know. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a bit dated, but we tried to make a start to finish album as best we could, and so we're really excited about it.